If I say meditation, what picture pops into your head? Because that picture might be wrong for half the world.
That's the perfect setup. Meditation is a broad label, not a single technique.
So the same word can mean different things, different goals, different beliefs, different settings.
Exactly. And if we mix those up, we get confusion and bad expectations.
Okay, 3 quick scenes. Tell me if these are the same game. Scene 1. Someone trains attention on the breath. They're cultivating calm and also sharper seeing.
In many Buddhist lineages, that split is described as calm and insight. The technique can look simple, but the aim can be very specific.
Scene 2. Someone repeats a short prayer steadily for a long time. The goal is closeness to God and inner quiet.
In Eastern Christian monastic practice, that quiet is sometimes called stillness. The repetition is not just a focus trick, it's devotion and contemplation.
Scene 3. Someone repeats phrases remembering God, alone or with a group, sometimes with beads, sometimes with breath.
That maps well to Dhikr in Islamic practice, especially in Sufi contexts. It's remembrance as a way of shaping attention and the heart.
Now here's the twist, a 4th scene. A modern course teaches mindfulness for everyday stress.
That often keeps the attentional training, but changes the framing. It may be explicitly secular, with different language and expectations.
So what is meditation then? If all these count, what's the shared core?
A careful common denominator is this. You intentionally train attention and awareness over time.
But the why can be totally different. And that changes what you actually do.
Yes, technique might look similar, while goals and metaphysics differ sharply.
So we need a simple way to compare, one framework across all traditions.
Let's use 4 lenses: technique, view, goal, and context.
Technique is what you do. View is what you think you are, or what reality is. Goal is what you're aiming for. Awakening, union with God, insight, compassion, or just steadiness.
And context is the container. Ethics, teacher guidance, community, and ritual, or none of those.
Here's our promise today. We're not doing a religion tour.
Right. We're looking at meditation as practice, inside real, living traditions.
And we won't oversell outcomes. No miracle claims, no fake precision.
We'll say what's commonly taught, what varies, and what's uncertain. And we'll keep the language honest.
All right, next we start with Buddhist calm and insight. And we keep these 4 lenses on screen.
Let's build a definition you can actually test. Meditation is a repeatable practice that trains attention and awareness on purpose.
So it's like a gym workout, but for attention.
That's close, yes. But many traditions add a view of self and reality.
Translate that. What does view change for me?
It changes what you're aiming for and what counts as progress. 2 people can do the same exercise for different reasons.
Okay, so what does counts mean here? Is daydreaming meditation if I'm sitting quietly?
Small correction. Sitting quietly is a posture, not a method by itself.
So what's the method part? What do I do exactly?
Typically, you set an intention. You train attention on something, or rest in awareness of experience.
And when my mind wanders? That's failing, right?
Usually not. Noticing wandering and returning is often the core repetition.
So meditation is not blank mind. Good, because that never happens.
Right. Many practices are about relationship to thoughts, not deleting thoughts.
What's the boundary line then? What is meditation not?
It's not just relaxation, though it can feel calming. It's not therapy, though it can support therapy.
And it's not hypnosis, right?
Often not, yes. Meditation usually trains attention processes, not scripted content changes.
Okay, give me the 4 lenses again, like I'm 5.
Technique is what you do moment to moment. View is what you assume about self and reality. Goal is what you're trying to realize or cultivate. Context is the container. Ethics, community, teacher, and ritual, or none.
So if I ignore context, I might misunderstand the practice, even if technique looks similar.
Exactly. And misunderstanding can create weird expectations or disappointment.
Hit me with a concrete example. Same technique, different meaning.
Repetition is a great example. A phrase can be used as mantra, as prayer, or as remembrance.
So it's not just words in my head, it's what those words are doing in the system.
Yes, in some contexts, it's devotion. In others, it's concentration training.
What about breath meditation? That seems universal.
Breath is common, but not universal. And even with breath, goals differ across traditions.
Like what? Give me 2.
In one Buddhist approach, breath can support insight into experience. In a secular class, breath may support stress coping and self-regulation.
So what should I expect then if I start meditating tomorrow?
Expect variability. Different practices fit different people, and experiences can change over time.
And we're not doing medical promises today, even if people swear it fixed everything.
Correct. Evidence varies by outcome, and personal stories don't generalize reliably.
Any safety notes we should say out loud, quickly?
If practice feels overwhelming, scale down and seek guidance. And don't replace medical or mental health care with a technique.
All right, I feel the map now. Technique, view, goal, context.
Great. Now we can visit traditions without mixing their rules and aims.
Let's go. Start with calm and insight in early Buddhism. All right, calm and insight. People throw these words around like everyone agrees.
They're often called Samatha and Vipassanā. In early Buddhist contexts, think of them as qualities you develop.
So not 2 brands, more like 2 skills.
Yes, Samatha is the settling and unification of the mind.
Translate settling. What would I see you doing?
Typically, you choose a steady anchor, like the breath. You keep returning gently until the mind gathers.
So step 1 is basically stay with it. No fireworks.
Right. The fireworks are optional, and not the point.
Then Vipassana is insight. What is insight in this lane?
Insight means investigating experience as it happens. You learn how sensations, feelings, and thoughts arise and pass.
So calm is like holding the camera steady. Insight is examining what the camera is capturing.
That's a useful metaphor. Stability makes investigation clearer and less reactive.
Okay, give me the basic session. What do you do minute to minute?
Start simple. Sit, set intention, and place attention on the breath sensations.
And when I drift, I come back.
Exactly. That returning is training, not failure.
Where does insight enter? Do I switch modes?
Sometimes. In many approaches, calm strengthens first, then investigation deepens.
But not always, right?
Correct. Some teachings emphasize insight early, then add more calm to balance.
So the order can vary. Is that actually in the tradition?
Yes, there are early texts describing multiple sequences. Calm first, insight first, or both developing together.
Nice. 3 lanes. So what's the shared destination?
In early Buddhism, the destination is liberation from suffering. But we should define suffering carefully.
Yeah, because that word gets dramatic. What do you mean by it here?
Often it means unsatisfactoriness in conditioned experience. Even pleasant things are unstable, and clinging makes them stressful.
And this is where those three buzzwords show up: impermanence, suffering, not self.
Yes, but I want to frame them as practice lenses, not slogans.
Okay, lens number 1, impermanence. What am I supposed to notice?
Notice change at every scale. Breath changes, sensations change, moods change, thoughts change.
So it's like watch the river, not think a philosophy.
Exactly. It's observation first, interpretation second.
Lens 2, unsatisfactoriness. That sounds bleak.
It can sound bleak, but it's more precise than it sounds. It points to the stress of trying to freeze what can't be frozen.
So it's not life is misery, it's gripping hurts.
That's a good translation into everyday language. The practice tests that claim in your own experience.
Now the big one, not self. People freak out about that.
Let's tighten it. In many early teachings, it's a way of seeing experience as not owned.
Not owned, meaning what?
A thought appears. You can notice it arises due to conditions, not as a command from a boss self.
So it's less you don't exist, more don't cling to a fixed controller.
Yes, that's safer language. Different teachers debate phrasing, but the practice aim is consistent. Reduce clinging.
Okay, I'm tracking. How do calm and insight work together, practically?
Calm reduces noise and impulsive reaction. Insight uses that steadiness to see patterns clearly.
So calm is the stabilizer. Insight is the investigation.
Yes, and as insight grows, it can also make the mind calmer.
What's a common beginner mistake here, in this tradition?
Chasing special states and skipping the basics. Or forcing concentration so hard that you get tense.
So gentle repetition beats clenched effort. Got it.
Exactly. You're training the mind, not wrestling it.
Where does ethics fit? Because you said context matters.
In Theravada, ethics are foundational training, called virtue. For lay people, that often means basic precepts.
So not just be nice, actual training rules.
Yes, they shape behavior, and that stabilizes the mind for meditation.
And monastics have a deeper container, more rules, more structure.
Usually, yes. Different life contexts support different intensities of practice.
So if I try this at home, I shouldn't pretend I'm on retreat.
That's wise. Start small, be consistent, and get guidance when possible.
One more thing. Is Theravada meditation one single method?
No. There are multiple lineages, teachers, and emphases within Theravada.
So our job here is to map the big shape, not pick winners.
Exactly. Calm and insight, trained intentionally in an ethical container.
All right, next up, Zen, where just sitting somehow counts as a technique.
Now let's switch gears into Sōtō Zen. Shikantaza means just sitting, and that can sound misleading.
Yeah, just sitting sounds like doing nothing. So what's the catch?
Small correction. It's not a trick, but it is precise. You sit upright and you stay present without picking a special object.
No breath focus, no mantra, no visualization. So what do I actually do?
You maintain posture and let experience arise and pass. Attention is open, and you practice not grabbing onto anything.
Not grabbing sounds abstract. Give me the physical version.
Spine upright, shoulders relaxed, hands stable, gaze soft. You're alert, not slumped, and not straining.
So the body is doing a job. It's like the posture is the steering wheel.
That's a good metaphor. In many Sōtō settings, posture is treated as central to the practice.
Okay, but mentally what happens when thoughts show up? Because they will.
Thoughts appear, and you notice them like weather. You don't chase, you don't fight, and you don't narrate a story.
So it's not blank mind, it's don't cling.
Exactly. The discipline is steady, non-grasping, moment after moment.
So what's the difference between allowing and zoning out? They can feel similar.
Great question. Zoning out is dullness, while Shikantaza aims for clear, steady alertness.
How would a beginner check that, like in real time?
If you're foggy, posture collapses and time disappears. If you're clear, you notice drifting quickly and return to upright presence.
Return to what, though, if there's no object?
Return to the whole situation of sitting. Posture, breath happening naturally, sounds, thoughts, and space as one field.
So it's everything, but nothing special. That's the vibe.
Yes, and it reduces the habit of treating experience as a shopping list.
You said practice and realization earlier. Is Zen saying you're already done?
In some Sōtō framing, practice is not just a means to an end. Sitting is treated as expressing awakening, while still requiring ongoing training.
So no gold star chasing. But also not who cares.
Exactly. It's wholehearted effort without the tight fist of attainment.
Where does this usually happen? Alone or in a group?
Both, but the context matters a lot. Traditionally, it's supported by a meditation hall, forms, and a community.
Forms meaning rituals and etiquette, bowing, walking, that kind of thing.
Often, yes. Those forms reduce decision fatigue and help the mind settle into practice.
And the teacher role, is it do this exactly or find your way?
It varies by community, but guidance is common. A teacher helps with posture, effort level, and the drift into dullness.
So just sitting is actually pretty demanding. It's simple, but not easy.
That's well said. Simple instructions, deep consequences for how you relate to experience.
All right, next we go Tibetan, right? Where awareness gets even more intense. Okay, Tibetan time. People say Dzogchen like it's a superpower.
I'm glad you said that. These are advanced systems, and they're easy to misunderstand.
So let's slow it down. What are we covering exactly?
Two famous approaches are Mahamudra and Dzogchen. Both point toward directly recognizing mind nature, but in different lineages.
Same destination, different roadmaps. Where do they live, tradition-wise?
Broadly, Mahamudra is strongly associated with Kagyu traditions, though others teach it too. Dzogchen is central in Nyingma traditions, and also practiced in Bun.
If you're new, non-dual sounds like a philosophy lecture. Translate it into practice.
In practice, it often means this. You stop treating awareness as an object and recognize it as the knowing itself.
So not staring at a candle flame, more like noticing the fact you're seeing anything at all.
That's a helpful pointer, but it's subtle, and it's why guidance is emphasized.
Let's make it concrete. If I walked in, what would I see someone doing?
Often, you still see a person sitting simply and quietly. The difference is the instruction. Recognize awareness, not just focus.
So what's the instruction in plain English? Give me the least mystical version.
Here's a safe, non-technical flavor. Let the mind settle. Then notice the open knowing where thoughts appear.
Notice the knowing, not the thought content.
Exactly. Thoughts come and go, but the capacity to know is continuously present.
I've heard the sky and clouds thing, but that can turn into spacing out.
Yes, and that's an important caution. Clarity matters. Blankness is not the goal.
So what does clear feel like versus dissociated or sleepy?
Clear awareness is awake and responsive. Spacing out is dull, foggy, and often avoidant.
So if I'm escaping my life, that's not it. That's just hiding.
That's a wise way to put it. Many teachers warn against confusing calm numbness with realization.
Okay, now, where does the teacher come in? Because you keep hinting at that.
In many Tibetan contexts, instruction is transmitted through relationship and training. There are practices specifically meant to introduce the nature of mind.
Is that what people mean by pointing out? Like a direct instruction?
Yes, that phrase is used in both Mahamudra and Dzogchen contexts. It's a way of guiding recognition, not just giving concepts.
So reading a book is not the same, even if the words are beautiful.
Words can orient you, but they can't verify your experience. A teacher helps you catch subtle mistakes early.
What kind of mistakes, besides spacing out?
Overthinking it, chasing a special state, or building a new spiritual identity. Also, spiritual bypass, where you avoid emotions by calling it emptiness.
So the vibe is subtle practice needs guardrails, and context matters.
Exactly, and Tibetan systems often add a strong preparation phase.
Preparation like what? Give me the practical list, not the jargon.
Ethical training, compassion practices, and building stability with simpler meditation. Often also devotion-style practices that strengthen commitment and humility.
So if I hear Dzogchen is the highest, I shouldn't treat that as a shortcut.
Right. Highest is a lineage claim about method, not a promise of easy results.
What's the everyday goal then, if we strip the hype away?
Practitioners often describe a shift from being dragged by thoughts to recognizing awareness. Then, they try to stabilize that recognition during ordinary life.
So not just on a cushion, in traffic, in conflict, in boredom.
Yes, the real test is integration, not retreat vibes.
How is this different from Zen just sitting? They both sound like open awareness.
They can look similar from the outside, but the framing, prerequisites, and methods of guidance can differ significantly.
So the same technique lens can deceive us. We need view, goal, and context too.
Exactly. That's why our four-lens framework matters so much here.
All right. I feel the caution sign. In a good way. Respect the lineage. Don't cosplay the advanced stuff.
That's a healthy takeaway. Curiosity is great, and humility keeps practice safe and honest.
Next, we jump to yoga traditions, where concentration becomes a staircase.
Now let's jump to classical yoga, especially the Yoga Sutras tradition. Here, meditation is part of a larger training path, not a standalone hack.
Good, because yoga means 10 different things now. So we're not talking about gym class.
Right. We're talking about a classical system where ethics, attention, and liberation are linked.
Okay, give me the staircase. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi.
A simple way to hear it is this. Dharana is choosing an object and holding attention there.
So, spotlight attention on one thing.
Yes, dhyana is when that attention becomes steadier and more continuous.
So less reset, 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 more flow.
Exactly. Samadhi is described as deeper absorption, where the sense of separation can thin out.
That sounds big. How do we say that without getting mystical?
We can keep it practical. It's a spectrum of absorption, from effortful focus to effortless stability.
So what's the actual practice, minute to minute?
Often it starts like concentration training. Pick a support, return when distracted, and refine the steadiness.
What counts as a support? Breath, sound, image, idea?
All of those appear in different yogic and Hindu settings. The key is consistency and a clear aim.
And what's the aim? Because samadhi sounds like a trophy.
In classical yoga framing, the aim is liberation through discernment. But traditions differ in how they describe the final goal.
So sometimes it's freedom from suffering. Sometimes it's union with the divine.
Yes, and we should be careful with that word, union. It's meaningful inside certain devotional and philosophical frames, not a universal claim.
So what's the context piece in yoga? You hinted it's not just sitting.
In the Yoga Sutras tradition, ethics are foundational. The restraints and observances are meant to stabilize life and reduce agitation.
So it's like cleaning the room before you try to focus. Less chaos, less guilt, less drama.
That's a fair everyday translation. Many teachers treat ethical training as part of the meditation technology.
Okay, now the other big mode you promised. Mantra. Japa.
Yes, Japa is the repetition of a mantra, or a sacred name, in many Indic traditions.
People think mantra is magic words. Is that fair?
Sometimes people treat it that way, but it's not the only framing. Mantra can be sound, meaning, devotion, and attention training, depending on context.
So what do you do? Out loud? Whisper? Or silent?
All three exist in different settings. The key is gentle repetition and returning when the mind drifts.
So it's like breath meditation, but with a sound, and sometimes a meaning.
Exactly. For some practitioners, meaning and devotion are central, not optional.
And for others, it's basically a focus anchor, a metronome for attention.
Yes, same technique lens, different goal lens.
Where does absorption show up in mantra? Does japa lead into that ladder?
It can. Repetition can become continuous, and the mind can unify around the mantra.
Any common mistake with mantra? Besides picking one you don't understand,
Forcing speed or intensity can create tension, and stripping the practice from its context can change its meaning completely.
so teacher matters again, and community sometimes.
Often, yes. Many mantra practices are given and shaped within a living tradition.
All right, quick recap for viewers. Yoga gives us a ladder, and mantra gives us an engine.
Nice phrasing. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi describe deepening stability, and japa is one powerful method.
Next we go to Christian contemplation, where repetition and silence show up in a different frame. All right, Christian contemplation. Some people hear meditation and assume it can't be a Christian thing.
It's been part of Christian life for a long time. But Christians often name it prayer, contemplation, or stillness.
So prayer and meditation overlap, but they're not identical.
Exactly. Meditation can mean training attention. Prayer usually emphasizes relationship and communion with God.
Let's do 3 modes today: Hesychasm, centering prayer, and Lectio Divina.
Great trio. Same attention tools, but very explicitly Christian meanings and aims.
Start with Hesychasm. I've heard Jesus prayer and inner stillness.
Hesychasm is an Eastern Christian tradition of seeking inner quiet through unceasing prayer. A central practice is repeating the Jesus prayer with steady attention.
So what does it look like in real life?
Often it's very plain. A simple posture, a quiet corner. You repeat a short prayer gently, over and over, returning when your mind wanders.
And sometimes with the breath, right?
Some approaches coordinate the prayer with breathing and attention. But good teachers warn against treating that like a hack or a guarantee. This is prayer, not a trick.
So the technique is repetition. The goal is stillness and communion, not a special effect.
Yes, and the context matters. Humility, guidance, and the wider life of the church.
Okay, now, centering prayer. That's often described as silent prayer, right?
Yes, centering prayer is a receptive, silent form of prayer that uses a simple cue to return.
Cue meaning like an anchor, but not a mantra.
Right. Many instructions use a sacred word as a symbol of consenting to God's presence and action.
So what do you do when thoughts show up? Same question every time.
You notice you're caught in thoughts. Then you return, very gently, to the sacred word with minimal effort.
That sounds like mindfulness instructions, but with a different frame.
That's fair on the technique lens. As the loop on screen suggests, the return is similar, but the intention is explicitly prayerful consent to God.
So where's the context here? Do people do it in churches or at home?
Both. Many people do it privately, and some join groups or retreats for support and consistency.
And spiritual direction can show up here too, like a guide.
Yes, guidance helps with discernment and steadiness, especially when people try to turn prayer into self-improvement.
Now, Lectio Divina. This one is text-based.
Exactly. Lectio Divina is slow, prayerful reading of Scripture with a simple, structured flow.
Give me the 4 steps, short and usable.
Read, reflect, respond, rest. Traditionally, Lectio, Meditatio, Oratio, Contemplatio.
So Lectio is not speed reading, it's slow reading.
Yes, you read attentively, often rereading, and you notice a word or phrase that tugs at you.
Meditatio is not thinking hard. It's more like chewing.
That's a classic description. You stay with the phrase, ruminating, letting it meet your real life.
Then oratio. You respond.
Right. You respond to God with gratitude, request, confession, praise, whatever is honest.
And contemplatio is the quiet resting. Less words.
Yes, it's receptive, wordless presence, not analysis and not something you force.
So in one segment, we've got 3 techniques: repetition, silence with a cue, and scripture contemplation.
Exactly. And each tends to live in a context. Hesychasm prayer in Eastern Christian life, centering prayer, often with groups or retreats, and Lectio in scripture-shaped prayer and worship.
Last clarity check. When people say meditation, Christians might hear foreign.
Which is why we keep our lenses clear. Similar attention skills can show up across religions, while meanings and goals can differ.
Perfect. Next we go Islamic Dhikr. More repetition, but a different frame again.
Now let's talk about Dhikr, often translated as remembrance. It's a practice of repeating phrases to remember God on purpose.
So it's like mantra. Is that a fair comparison?
Technique-wise, both can involve repetition, but the meaning and goal are framed within Islam.
Okay, translate dhikr into what you do, minute to minute.
Often you repeat a short phrase or one of God's names. You keep returning when attention wanders.
Out loud or silent.
Both exist. Some practices are quiet, some are spoken, depending on the setting.
And people use beads sometimes, right?
Yes, many people use prayer beads, often called a tasbih, but fingers can be used too.
So what's the goal lens here? What are you aiming for?
The aim is remembrance and inward orientation toward God. It's devotional, not just a concentration exercise.
And the context lens. Where does dhikr usually happen?
It can be private, like after daily prayers. It can also be communal in Sufi settings.
When you say Sufi, that's not one single style, right?
Exactly. There are many Sufi orders, and practices vary by lineage and culture.
So no one true dhikr. Different methods.
Right. Some include coordinated breath, posture, or rhythm, and some do not.
That's where outsiders can get weird about it, like it's a performance.
Yes, and that's a good caution. For practitioners, the point is remembrance and reverence, not spectacle.
Where do teachers come in? Like in Tibetan traditions.
In many Sufi contexts, guidance matters. There are norms of conduct, often called adab, that shape practice.
So it's not freestyle, it's carried in a tradition.
Often, yes, and that helps keep intention, humility, and consistency in place.
Okay, last thing. What should viewers not assume?
Don't assume Dhikr is just a stress tool. And don't assume every Muslim practice looks like Sufi ritual.
So the four lenses again. Technique, repetition. View, devotion to God. Goal, remembrance. Context, community and guidance.
That's a solid summary. Next, we'll see a very different Jewish practice, Hitbodedut.
Now to Jewish meditation. And this one surprises people because it can look very different.
A great entry point is Hitbodedut, often associated with Breslov practice. It's solitary, personal, conversational prayer in your own words.
So not a script, more like talking.
Exactly. You speak honestly like you're pouring out your heart, often in a private place.
Is it meditation if you're talking the whole time, or is it just prayer?
This is where labels get tricky. Technique-wise, it trains attention and intention through direct conversation with God.
Okay, what do you do, minute to minute?
Many people start with gratitude, then talk about what's real today. Then they ask for help, and sometimes sit in quiet after words run out.
So it can include silence, but it starts with speech.
Often, yes. And the solitude part matters because it reduces performance and distraction.
Now the careful part. Kabbalistic meditation sounds like one secret technique.
It's not one thing. Kabbalistic practices vary widely by community, era, and teacher guidance.
So what can we safely say, without pretending it's universal?
A common thread is kavanah, meaning intention or direction of the heart. In many settings, meditation is built into prayer by deepening intention.
So you're praying the same words, but you're doing something different inside.
Yes. Some traditions focus on meanings, themes, and inner orientation during prayer.
And some go further, with contemplations on words and letters.
In some Kabbalistic schools, yes. But details matter, and it's not something to freestyle from a checklist online.
So the context lens is huge here. Community norms, teachers, and the wider life.
Exactly. Jewish contemplative practice often sits inside prayer services, study, ethics, and community.
Quick summary for viewers. Hitbodedut is personal and spontaneous. Kabbalistic meditation is diverse and often prayer-centered.
Well said. And both show how meditation can mean training attention within a devotional world.
All right, next, Daoism, where sitting and forgetting takes us somewhere else entirely.
Now we're in Daoism, where meditation can mean two very different families. One is Zuowang, sitting and forgetting, and the other is Neidan, internal cultivation.
So Daoism isn't just be calm, it's a whole different worldview.
Yes, and we'll keep it practice first. Daoist methods often aim at aligning with the Tao, not chasing a mood.
Start with Zuowang. Sitting and forgetting sounds like dissociation.
It can sound that way, so we have to be careful. In many descriptions, it's a disciplined letting go of clinging and concepts.
Letting go of what? Thoughts?
Thoughts, preferences, and the constant me story. The practice emphasizes simplicity and non-grasping.
Okay, what do you do minute to minute?
You sit quietly, stabilize the body, and allow the mind to settle. Then, you keep releasing whatever you tighten around.
So not forcing focus on one object, more like unhooking.
Exactly. If concentration is a spotlight, Zuowang is more like dimming the urge to control.
Is this actually in the classic texts, or is it a modern label?
It shows up in classical Taoist literature, including the Zhuangzi. There's a famous sitting and forgetting scene that's often discussed.
So the view lens here is different. Less analyze reality, more stop gripping it.
That's a good phrasing. The practice tries to reduce interference so natural clarity can emerge.
Now I'm worried about the same trap as Tibetan. People spacing out and calling it wisdom.
That's a real risk. Daoist sources also emphasize steadiness, not dullness.
Okay, so Zuowang is the letting go lane. What's the other lane? Neidan.
Neidan is often translated as internal alchemy or internal cultivation. It's a broad family, not one standardized routine.
Alchemy sounds like potions. Is this like chemistry?
Historically, Taoism had external alchemy traditions too. Neidan focuses on inner transformation, using body, breath, mind training.
So what do you actually do in Neidan? Give me a safe, high-level description.
Often, it includes posture, breathing methods, and directed attention. In some lineages, it also includes visualization and other layered techniques.
So it's more structured than Zuowang. More do this, then that.
Often, yes, but the details vary widely, and some teachings are intentionally not public.
Why the secrecy vibe? Is that real?
Partly safety, partly tradition. Some methods are considered advanced and require preparation and supervision.
Preparation like ethics again. Or foundational practices.
Yes, many Taoist systems pair meditation with conduct, discipline, and daily life cultivation.
So what's the goal lens? What are people aiming for in Neidan?
It depends on the lineage and practitioner. Some aim for health and longevity, others for spiritual transformation in Taoist terms.
And that's where the internet gets messy. Because people promise superhero outcomes.
Exactly. There's a long history, but also a modern market that can rebrand things aggressively.
So what's our safety message for viewers who want to try this?
Don't chase flashy claims, and don't improvise advanced methods from snippets. If you explore, look for qualified instruction and a sane, ethical context.
And keep the four lenses straight. Technique, view, goal, context.
Yes, Taoist practices make that framework obvious, because the same sitting can mean different worlds.
Quick recap. Zuowang is letting go into simplicity. Neidan is structured internal cultivation.
That's the clean summary. Next, we do a dedicated comparison table across multiple traditions.
All right, this is the save and rewatch part. We're putting everything into one table. Technique, view, goal, context.
Perfect. And we'll keep repeating the same 4 questions so it sticks.
Row 1. Theravada, early Buddhist calm and insight. Technique first.
Technique. Stabilize attention, often with breath, then investigate experience. View. Practice lenses like impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self.
Goal. What are you aiming for?
Goal. Liberation. Often described as reducing clinging and confusion. Context. Ethics and discipline, with monastic and lay forms.
Row 2. Zen Sōtō, Shikantaza. Technique.
Technique. Upright sitting with open awareness, not selecting a special object. View. Practice expresses awakening while still requiring training.
Goal and context. Quick.
Goal. Non-grasping and clear presence in ordinary life. Context. Forms, community, and teacher guidance in many settings.
Row 3. Tibetan, Mahamudra and Dzogchen. Technique in plain English.
Technique. Recognize awareness directly and rest without chasing thoughts. View. Mind-nature language functions as a practice pointer, not just theory.
Goal and context. And keep the safety note.
Goal. Stabilize recognition of awareness, then integrate it in daily life. Context. Lineage guidance and preparation, because it's easy to misread.
Row 4. Classical yoga. Dharana to dhyana to samadhi.
Technique. Sustained concentration, then continuous meditation, then deeper absorption. View. depends on school, but often includes liberation or union language within tradition.
Goal and context.
Goal. Liberation, in yoga terms, sometimes described through discernment. Context. Ethics, teacher tradition, and often devotional or ritual supports.
Row 5. Christian. Let's use centering prayer as the anchor.
Technique. Receptive silence with a gentle return cue, often a sacred word. View. Prayerful relationship with God, not just attention training.
Goal and context.
Goal. Consenting to God's presence and action, deepening contemplation. Context. Often alongside liturgy, community, and sometimes spiritual direction.
Row 6. Islamic Dhikr. Technique.
Technique. Repeated remembrance phrases, sometimes alone, sometimes in groups. View. Devotional orientation toward God within Islamic worship.
Goal and context.
Goal. Remembrance and inner alignment of heart and attention. Context. Community norms and, in many Sufi settings, guidance and adab.
Row 7. Daoist. Let's do Zuowang and Neidan as a pair.
Technique. Zuowang emphasizes letting go. Neidan adds layered body-breath-mind training. View. Alignment with the Tao and cultivation language varies by lineage.
Goal and context.
Goal. Ranges from simplicity and clarity to deeper cultivation aims, depending on tradition. Context. Teacher transmission matters, and modern rebranding can distort practices.
Okay, now the fun part. Common confusions highlighted.
Confusion 1. Same technique, different goal. Repetition can be mantra, dhikr, or the Jesus prayer, with different meanings.
So repetition isn't automatically calming. It depends what it's doing in that tradition.
Exactly. Technique is the surface, and the other lenses explain the deeper purpose.
Confusion 2. Open awareness is one thing, but Zen and Tibetan can look similar from the outside.
Yes, and their contexts can differ. Preparation, guidance style, and goal language matter.
Confusion 3. Meditation means silence, but Lectio and Hitbodedut can involve words.
Right. Some practices train attention through speech, text, and intention, not only quiet.
Okay, real viewer question. If I'm choosing a practice, what do I ask myself first?
Ask the goal question first. Then, choose a technique and context that honestly fit that goal.
And if a method is described as advanced, what's the move? Especially for Tibetan or some Daoist practices.
Go slower, not faster. Find reliable guidance and build a stable foundation.
That's the whole episode in one image. Technique, view, goal, context.
Exactly. And now we can talk about modern secular mindfulness and what changed. Now we hit the modern era, where mindfulness went mainstream and got many new meanings. This is where meditation became a workplace perk and an app feature.
This is the part everyone thinks they already know, but I bet they don't.
Usually they know one slice, often an app, a class, or a corporate workshop.
So start with MBSR. What is it in plain English?
MBSR is mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's a structured, group-based course that teaches mindfulness practices.
And it didn't start as a vibe. It started as a program.
Yes, it's widely credited to Jon Kabat-Zinn, developed in a medical school setting.
So, technique lens. What do you actually do in MBSR?
Common practices include a body scan, sitting meditation, and mindful movement. There's also everyday life practice, like eating or walking with attention.
So it's not just sit and breathe. It's a whole menu.
Exactly. And the menu matters because different practices train different skills.
Okay, view lens. What's the worldview in secular mindfulness?
Usually it's framed in everyday psychological language. Less cosmology, fewer vows, and fewer ritual supports.
So it keeps the method, loses the religion. That's the basic trade.
Often, yes, but loses can mean removes, translates, or replaces, depending on the program.
Goal lens now. What are secular programs aiming for?
Often stress coping, emotional regulation, and well-being. Sometimes also pain coping or relapse prevention, depending on the program.
Careful, that sounds medical. Are we promising outcomes?
No promises. We can say mindfulness programs are widely studied, but results vary by condition and study quality.
So, studied a lot, not magic, and not one size fits all.
Exactly. And people's experiences differ, even inside the same class.
Now, the modern explosion. Apps, influencers, mindful leadership, all that.
This is where mindfulness becomes a product category, and the quality can range from excellent teaching to pure marketing.
Let's sort it. 3 buckets: clinical program, wellness industry, appified mindfulness.
That's a helpful map. MBSR is closer to a structured educational program, often linked to healthcare settings.
Wellness industry is broader. Studios, retreats, branding.
Yes, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes shallow, and sometimes expensive without adding depth.
And appified mindfulness is the fast food version. Not always bad, but very compressed.
Exactly. Apps can help people start, but they can also remove context and skilled feedback.
So what gets lost when mindfulness becomes a product, in your view?
Often the context lens gets thinned out. Ethics, community, and long-term mentoring can disappear.
And that's where the phrase McMindfulness comes in. People use it as a critique.
Yes, it's a shorthand critique of mindfulness being commodified and decontextualized.
But we're not here to dunk on mindfulness. We're here to understand it.
Exactly. A balanced take is, secular mindfulness can increase access, but it can also drift into shallow branding.
Let's unpack the left side first. Benefits of secular mindfulness.
First, accessibility. People who wouldn't join a monastery might still learn attention training.
Second, it's more pluralist. You can practice without converting.
Yes. And third, research became easier when practices were standardized into program.
Now the right side, the critiques without the drama.
One critique is commodification. Mindfulness can be sold as a lifestyle upgrade, not a disciplined practice.
Another critique is ethics getting stripped out, so it becomes morally neutral attention training.
Yes, and a third critique is stress becoming individualized, like it's only in your head.
That's the corporate version. Fix your stress, while the workplace stays chaotic.
That's the concern. A responsible program names both inner skills and outer conditions.
So what does responsible look like in practice?
It looks like honesty about goals and limits. It includes consent, adaptation, and an ethical stance about how skills are used.
Okay, therapy-adjacent mindfulness. Where does that fit?
Some mindfulness approaches are integrated into psychotherapy, like MBCT. Others are used alongside therapy as skills training.
So mindfulness isn't automatically therapy, but it can be combined with therapy.
Exactly. And when it's combined, it should be done by trained clinicians in appropriate contexts.
Let's talk evidence carefully. What can we safely say?
We can safely say mindfulness-based programs are widely studied. Evidence suggests benefits for some outcomes in some groups, but it's not uniform.
So you might feel calmer, or you might feel restless or emotional.
Yes, practice can bring awareness to difficult material, and some people need extra support.
This is the not a substitute for care reminder, again.
Exactly. Mindfulness can complement care, but it should not replace medical or mental health treatment.
This chart is brutally helpful because most people buy a product, then expect a tradition.
Yes, and many disappointments come from mismatched expectations.
So in the four lenses, modern secular mindfulness often shifts context hardest. That's the key.
Exactly. Technique can be similar to older traditions, while view, goal, and context change.
Quick lightning round. How do I spot overhype?
Promises of guaranteed transformation, or claims that mindfulness fixes everything, fast, for everyone.
And how do I spot quality, even in a modern setting?
Clear scope, trained instruction, and respect for limits. Plus, an emphasis on daily life integration, not just peak experiences.
All right, next segment is practical. How to choose a practice safely without getting lost.
Perfect. We'll build a simple decision guide using the same four lenses. Pick one doorway, not one best meditation. As you see on screen, we start with your preference.
I love that. Doorway, not ranking. Start with structure. What do people actually do?
If you like structure, pick breath-based or mantra-based. Breath-based means you return attention to breathing, gently and repeatedly.
And mantra-based is repeating a word or phrase, right?
Yes, it can be spoken, whispered, or silent. The point is steadying attention with sound and meaning.
Now devotion. Some viewers hear meditation and think not religious. What's the doorway here?
Devotion is a real meditation family. It can be prayer, loving remembrance, sacred phrases, or attentive listening.
So the technique might be similar, but the relationship feels different.
Exactly. Same human mind, different context. The intention shapes the experience and the interpretation.
Third doorway, inquiry. What does that look like in plain words?
Inquiry means investigating experience. You might note sensations, watch thoughts arise, or ask a focused question.
Okay, we picked a doorway. Now the start small part.
Start smaller than your ambition. Try 5 to 10 minutes. Then stop on purpose.
Stop on purpose. That's such good advice for perfectionists.
And if practice makes you feel worse, do less, not more. Open your eyes, ground in the room, and choose a gentler option.
Let's do the context checklist. Teacher credibility, ethics, intensity, and mental health.
On screen is a simple checklist. Look for clear training, a code of ethics, and permission to ask questions.
What's a red flag in one sentence?
Any teacher who shames you for struggling or blocks you from outside support.
And mental health considerations, said carefully?
If you have a history of psychosis, recent mania, active self-harm, or heavy trauma symptoms, get guided support. Meditation can be helpful, but the container matters.
Last beat. How do we start respectfully across traditions?
Name your source. If it's from a tradition, learn the basics of that tradition's intent.
So we don't just borrow techniques, we borrow with care.
Yes, choose a doorway, start small, and keep your values in the room. Curiosity is good, respect is better.